Marcus Chen stands at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, 53 stories above Manhattan. Below him, the city moves like blood through veins. Taxis, pedestrians, delivery trucks, all of it pulsing with the rhythm of commerce. His empire sprawls across 3 continents. Chen Properties, 78 luxury developments, $4 billion in assets. Buildings that bear his name in gold letters 20 feet high. None of it matters, because 30 blocks north, in a climate-controlled nursery with medical equipment that cost more than most people's homes, his 2 sons sit in wheelchairs. They'll never escape. Oliver and Ethan, 3 years old, paralyzed from birth. Marcus turns from the window. His reflection stares back from the glass. 42 years old, graying at the temples, a face that magazines call distinguished, but he knows is just tired, exhausted, hollowed out. 3 years ago, his wife Maid died 40 minutes after delivering their twins. No warning. Amniotic fluid embolism. The doctors used those words like they explained something, like medical terminology could make sense of watching your wife's eyes go distant while your newborn sons screamed in incubators down the hall. The twins came early, 28 weeks. Their tiny bodies fought for every breath, and when the neurologist finally sat Marcus down 6 weeks later, the news came in that careful, practiced tone doctors use when they're about to destroy your world. Mr. Chen, the MRI results show significant brain damage, paraventricular leukomalacia. It's affected the motor cortex bilaterally. Marcus remembers staring at the scans, at the dark spaces where his sons' brains should have been whole. What does that mean? It means they'll never walk, Mr. Chen. The damage is permanent. We're looking at spastic cerebral palsy, severe classification. They'll need round-the-clock care for life. Never walk. Never run. Never chase each other through the rooms of the Connecticut estate he'd bought for May, the one she decorated with murals of dragons and phoenixes, symbols of protection she believed would keep their family safe. She'd been wrong. Marcus hired the best specialists money could buy, neurologists from Johns Hopkins, physical therapists from Switzerland. He purchased equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction film. Robotic walkers, electrical stimulation devices, custom orthotic systems. Nothing changed. The boys sat in their adaptive wheelchairs, small bodies motionless except for the occasional involuntary spasm. Their eyes tracked movement sometimes, but mostly they stared at nothing, trapped inside bodies that wouldn't obey. After 18 months of failed treatments and false hope, Marcus did what he always did when faced with impossible problems. He worked 16-hour days, 18, 20. He built towers in Dubai, luxury condos in Singapore, mixed-use developments in Toronto, each deal bigger than the last, each success more hollow. The twins had nurses, they had therapists, they had everything money could provide, everything except their father, because Marcus Chen had learned the hard way that presence and pain were the same thing. Easier to sign checks than to sit beside wheelchairs and watch his sons exist, but not live. 2 years into this half-life, Marcus met Victoria Sterling. She walked into a charity gala in a red dress that cost more than some cars. Her blonde hair swept up in a way that looked effortless, but he knew took hours. Investment banker, Princeton educated, the kind of woman who belonged in his world of closed-door deals and private equity. She didn't ask about his sons right away, didn't offer the pitying looks he'd grown to hate. She talked about architecture, about his developments, about ambition and legacy. She made him feel like Marcus Chen, the empire builder, instead of Marcus Chen, the broken father. 6 months of dinners and gallery openings and weekend trips to Martha's Vineyard. Then she suggested moving into the Connecticut estate. "You shouldn't be alone in that big house," she said, her hand on his arm. her perfume expensive and subtle. "Let me help you." Marcus should have questioned it, should have wondered why a woman like Victoria, who'd never mentioned wanting children, who'd built her career on 80-hour weeks, would volunteer to move into a house dominated by medical equipment and nursing staff and two disabled boys she'd never shown interest in meeting. But loneliness is a powerful drug, and Victoria offered something Marcus hadn't felt in 3 years: companionship without judgment. She didn't expect him to be healed. She just expected him to be there. He proposed 3 months ago, a 5-carat diamond. She said yes before he finished asking. The wedding is scheduled for December, 4 months away, and if Marcus Chen had been paying attention, if grief hadn't made him blind, he would have noticed the way Victoria's smile tightened whenever someone mentioned his sons, would have noticed how she never entered the therapy room without making an excuse to leave quickly, would have noticed the calculation in her eyes when his lawyer explained the trust he'd set up for Oliver and Ethan. $100 million each, untouchable, guaranteed regardless of what happened to him. But Marcus didn't notice because he'd stopped looking. Section 2, the surveillance system. The cameras went in after the 7th caregiver. Her name was Patricia, night nurse, excellent references. She lasted 6 weeks before Marcus came home early one Tuesday and found her in his office, photographing financial documents with her phone. When he confronted her, she didn't even pretend remorse. "Do you know what tabloids pay for information about Marcus Chen?" she said. "About his damaged kids?" Security escorted her out. Marcus called his lawyer, signed NDAs backed by lawsuit threats. But the damage was done. His trust, already threadbare, shredded completely. The security consultant arrived the next day. Military background, ex-Secret Service. He walked through the estate with practiced eyes, noting sightlines and access points. "Mr. Chen, with respect, your current system is inadequate. You have cameras at entry points, but nothing internal. Anyone could do anything once they're inside." "I don't want to live in a prison," Marcus said. "Sir, you already do. You're just not the one controlling the locks." The new system went live 72 hours later. Cameras in every hallway, every common room, hidden sensors and motion detectors. The therapy room got 3 cameras, ceiling-mounted, wide-angle, recording 24 hours a day, to encrypted cloud storage only Marcus could access. Victoria called it paranoid. "You're going to make the staff uncomfortable," she said, her hand trailing down his arm. "Good people don't want to work where they're constantly watched." "Good people shouldn't mind being watched," Marcus replied. She smiled, kissed his cheek, dropped it. But Marcus would have noticed if he'd been paying attention, that Victoria stopped entering rooms alone after the cameras went in. Always made sure someone else was present. Always positioned herself where lenses couldn't catch her face clearly. After Patricia came Margaret. Lasted 3 weeks before she was caught stealing prescription medications. Then Sandra, who quit after 2 days, said the house felt too sad. Then Jennifer, who made it 4 months before accepting a job offer in California. Then came the others, rotating cast of professionals who looked at his sons and saw a paycheck, who followed protocols but never connected, who kept the boys alive but never treated them like they were living. Marcus watched it all through the cameras. Late at night, alone in his study, he'd pull up the feeds on his laptop, watch nurses perform their duties with efficient detachment, watch therapists move small limbs through prescribed exercises, checking boxes on charts, watch his sons sit motionless in their wheelchairs, staring at walls. He told himself he was being thorough, responsible, protecting his family from another betrayal. But the truth he couldn't admit even to himself, was that watching through cameras was easier than being in the room. The screen created distance, made it bearable. He could see his sons without having to feel the weight of his failure pressing against his chest. Victoria understood, or pretended to. "You need to protect yourself," she said. "After everything you've been through, no one could blame you for being careful." She was right. Everyone agreed. The lawyers, the security consultant, even his business partner David, who'd known him for 20 years. "You can't trust anyone anymore," David said over whiskey at the club. "Not with what you have, not with what you've lost." So Marcus watched and re-watched and built walls higher. He should have. Wondered why Victoria encouraged it. Should have questioned why she was so supportive of his isolation, his surveillance, his growing inability to trust. Should have realized that someone planning something terrible would want him exactly where he was. Distant, suspicious, watching through screens instead of being present. But he didn't realize. Not yet. Because the cameras only show you what they can see. And some betrayals happen in blind spots, in moments too small to notice, in gestures that look like care but carry poison. Section 3. The humble caregiver arrives. The agency calls on a Wednesday morning. Marcus is in Singapore, closing a deal on a waterfront development. His phone buzzes during the final negotiation. "Mr. Chen, we have a candidate, but I need to be honest. She's not what you usually request." Marcus excuses himself from the conference room, steps into the hallway where glass walls overlook the harbor. "What do you mean?" "Her name is Rosa Martinez, 41 years old. She's been a housekeeper for 18 years. No formal caregiver training, no medical certifications, but—" The agent pauses. "Sir, I've worked with her before, with other families. There's something about her." "Something isn't a qualification." "I know, but she heard about your situation. She specifically asked to be considered, and her references—" Another pause. "Mr. Chen, I've never seen references like this. 3 families. All kept her for over 5 years. All wrote letters that sound more like they're describing family than an employee." Marcus walks to the window, watches ships move through water below. Why did she leave those families? Children grew up. Families didn't need full-time help anymore. Each family offered to keep her anyway, just to have her present. She declined, said she was needed elsewhere. Red flags everywhere. Too good to be true. No one is that devoted without an agenda. "I don't have time for this." "Sir, what if I send you her file? You're back Friday. If you want to interview her, fine. If not, I'll keep looking." Marcus agrees because the alternative is another month of agency searches, another month of strangers rotating through his home, another month of watching his sons sit motionless while people collect paychecks. The file arrives by email that night. He opens it at 3 in the morning, jet-lagged and unable to sleep in his Singapore hotel room. Rosa Martinez, 41. Immigrated from El Salvador at 19. Worked her way through community college while cleaning houses. Never finished her degree. Her mother got sick, needed care. Rosa dropped everything to provide it. Her mother died 6 years later. The families she worked for kept her employed throughout. Never reduced her hours despite the absences. The reference letters are strange, not professional, personal. Rosa didn't just care for our children. She loved them, really loved them. When our son was diagnosed with autism and couldn't speak, Rosa spent hours just sitting with him, not expecting anything, just being present. She's the reason he said his first words. "After my husband died, I couldn't function. Rosa held our family together. She cooked meals my children would actually eat. She sat with me at 3 in the morning when I couldn't stop crying. She never made me feel weak for falling apart." We offered Rosa $20,000 more per year to stay after our kids went to college. She said no. She said there were other families who needed her more. I've never met anyone like her. Marcus reads through the file twice, then a third time. His phone rings. Victoria. Where are you? Hotel room. Can't sleep. The wedding planner needs decisions, flowers, centerpieces, all of it. Marcus, you promised you'd be present for this. He closes the laptop. I know, I'm sorry. Friday, I'll be back Friday. And then you'll focus on us, on our future. Yes. But even as he says it, his mind is on that file, on those strange letters that sound less like employment references and more like family members describing someone they'd lost. Too good to be true, the cynical part of him whispers. Another person who'll leave. Another disappointment. But a different voice. Quieter, deeper, the part of him that still remembers what hope felt like, whispers something else. What if she's different? Friday afternoon, Marcus returns to Connecticut. The estate sits on 47 acres, stone and glass architecture that May called a castle for our princes. She'd been 8 months pregnant when they moved in, walking through empty rooms with her hands on her belly, planning where everything would go. The nursery was supposed to have floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. She'd wanted their sons to wake up to sunlight and trees, to grow up surrounded by beauty. That nursery is now the therapy room, medical equipment instead of toys, sterile instead of warm. The windows stay covered because sunlight interferes with the monitors. Marcus pulls into the circular driveway. His driver, James, opens the door. Good trip, sir. Successful. Ms. Sterling is inside. The new candidate is scheduled to arrive at 4. Marcus checks his watch. 20 minutes. Victoria meets him in the foyer. She's dressed impeccably as always. Cream cashmere sweater, tailored pants. She kisses his cheek. Welcome home. How was Singapore? Productive. He sets down his briefcase. The agency sent someone. Her expression tightens, just slightly, just for a second. Another one? Marcus, maybe we should consider a facility, professional care, round-the-clock medical staff. They've had this conversation before. It always ends the same way. They're staying home. I just think, Victoria, they're staying home. She sighs, touches his arm. Of course, I'm sorry. I know you want what's best for them. But Marcus notices, or would notice if he weren't exhausted, that she never says their names. Never Oliver and Ethan. Always them, always the boys. Like they're abstract concepts instead of his children. The doorbell rings at exactly 4 o'clock. Marcus opens it himself. He's learned that first impressions matter, that people reveal themselves in the initial seconds before they remember to perform. The woman standing on his doorstep is not what he expected. She's short, maybe 5'2". Round face, dark hair pulled into a practical bun. She wears simple clothes, a clean white button-down shirt, black pants, comfortable shoes. No jewelry except a small silver cross on a chain. No makeup, no effort to impress. But it's her eyes that stop him, brown, steady, calm. She looks at him without fear or calculation. Just presence. Mr. Chen? Her voice is soft, slightly accented. I'm Rosa Martinez. Come in. She steps inside, but doesn't immediately look around the way most people do when they enter his home. Doesn't gawk at the marble floors or the crystal chandelier or the Rothko original on the wall. She just stands quietly, hands folded, waiting. Marcus leads her to his office, gestures to a chair. She sits with perfect posture, her hands resting in her lap. He opens her file on his laptop, pulls up the standard questions he asks every candidate. You have no formal caregiver training. No, sir. No medical certifications. No, sir. The boys require specialized care, feeding tubes, medication schedules, range of motion exercises. Are you comfortable learning medical procedures? I'm comfortable learning whatever they need. Why do you want this job? Rosa is quiet for a moment. Her eyes stay on his face. May I ask you a question first? No one has ever asked that. Go ahead. When you look at your sons, what do you see? The question lands like a punch. Marcus feels his throat tighten. Excuse me? I'm not trying to be disrespectful, Mr. Chen, but I need to know. Do you see their diagnosis, or do you see them? Marcus should end this interview, should call the agency and tell them this woman is inappropriate, presumptuous, out of line. But instead he hears himself answering honestly. I don't know anymore. Rosa nods slowly, like she expected that answer, like she understands. I see children, she says quietly. I see two boys who came into this world fighting, who survived when they weren't supposed to, who are still here, still breathing, still feeling. Their bodies may not work the way we wish, but they're not broken, Mr. Chen. They're just different. The doctors see medical charts. They see statistics. They see what usually happens. She leans forward slightly. But I've learned something in 18 years of caring for people. Children aren't statistics, and love isn't something you can see on an MRI. Marcus stares at her. This woman he met 5 minutes ago is saying things no medical professional has ever said, is offering something he stopped looking for 2 years ago. Hope. And hope is dangerous. Hope is what destroys you when it doesn't come true. This job pays $15 per hour, Marcus says flatly. You'll work 6 days per week, 8-hour shifts. You'll follow the medical protocols exactly. No improvising, no experimental methods. The physical therapist visits twice weekly. The occupational therapist comes Thursdays. You execute their instructions, nothing more. I understand. There are cameras in every room except bathrooms and bedrooms. You'll be recorded at all times. If you have a problem with surveillance, this isn't the position for you. Something flickers in Rosa's eyes. Not fear, something else. I don't have a problem with cameras, Mr. Chen. I have nothing to hide. Previous caregivers have stolen, leaked information, and violated confidentiality agreements. If you do any of those things, I will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. I understand. Marcus closes the laptop. This is where he usually ends interviews. Thanks them for their time. Tells the agency to keep looking, but that voice in his chest, the one that remembers hope, speaks up. When can you start? Rosa doesn't smile, doesn't celebrate, just nods calmly. Tomorrow morning, if you'd like. 7 o'clock. Tomorrow, then. She stands, extends her hand. Marcus shakes it. Her grip is firm, warm. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Chen. I promise you won't regret it. I hope not. After Rosa leaves, Victoria appears in the doorway of his office. You hired her? Yes. Marcus, she has no credentials, no training. Her references were extraordinary. References can be faked. Marcus looks at his fiancée, at the woman he's supposed to marry in 4 months. Why don't you want me to hire her? Victoria's expression smooths instantly. I do want you to hire someone qualified, someone who won't put your sons at risk. I'm thinking of their safety. She's said all the right words, expressed all the right concerns, but Marcus would notice if he weren't so tired, that she's gripping her phone too tightly, that her jaw is clenched, that she looks like someone who just watched a door open that she desperately wanted to stay closed. She starts tomorrow, Marcus says. If it doesn't work out, we'll try someone else. Victoria nods, kisses his cheek. Of course, whatever you think is best. She leaves. Marcus stands alone in his office. He should feel relieved. He's hired someone, filled the position. He can go back to Singapore next week, close more deals, focus on the empire. But something nags at him. Something in the way Victoria reacted, in the way she never entered the therapy room while Rosa was here, in the way she's been encouraging him to consider facilities and professional care for months. Marcus pulls up his laptop, opens the security footage from the therapy room. Oliver and Ethan sit in their wheelchairs, the afternoon light dim through covered windows. A nurse, today's rotating professional, checks their vitals efficiently, 30 seconds per child. Then she returns to her phone. Marcus watches his sons, really watches. They're not moving, not responding, just existing. And for the first time in 2 years, Marcus feels something crack in his chest. Not hope yet, but maybe the possibility of hope, the space where hope could grow if he let it. Tomorrow, Rosa Martinez walks through his door, and everything is about to change, but not in the way Marcus expects, because 40 miles away, in a modest apartment in Queens, Rosa Martinez kneels beside her bed. She opens her worn Bible, and she prays, not for success, not for safety. She prays for vision, for the ability to see what others have missed, for protection over 2 small boys who are in more danger than anyone knows. And she prays for one more thing: courage. Because tomorrow morning, before she leaves for Connecticut, Rosa will pack something in her bag that she's never packed before, something small, something she bought yesterday after reading Marcus Chen's file and seeing the photos of his sons and feeling that familiar pull in her spirit, the one that says, "These children need you." A small camera, wireless, battery-powered, no bigger than a button. She'll hide it somewhere in that therapy room, somewhere the other cameras can't see, somewhere pointed at what matters most. Because Rosa Martinez has learned something in 18 years of caring for children. Sometimes the most important things happen in blind spots, and sometimes to save the innocent, you have to be willing to watch in the darkness. Rosa arrives at 6:45, 15 minutes early. Marcus watches through the kitchen window as she parks an old Honda Civic near the service entrance. She sits in the car for a full minute, eyes closed, lips moving, praying again. Victoria comes downstairs in her running clothes. "She's here already?" "Yes." Eager, Victoria pours coffee. "Let's hope it lasts." Marcus walks to the door. Rosa stands on the steps holding a small canvas bag, the same calm expression on her face. "Good morning, Mr. Chen." "Come in. I'll show you the therapy room." They walk through hallways lined with May's decorating choices: silk wallpaper, antique vases, framed calligraphy. Rosa doesn't comment, but her eyes take everything in. Not calculating, just observing. The therapy room sits at the east end of the house. Marcus opens the door. Morning light filters through gaps in the blackout curtains. Medical equipment crowds every corner. Ventilators on standby, feeding pumps, vital sign monitors, adaptive chairs, parallel bars that haven't been used in months. And in the center, 2 modified wheelchairs. Oliver sits in the blue one, Ethan in the green. 3 years old. Small bodies motionless except for the occasional muscle spasm. Their eyes are open but distant, staring at nothing. Marcus watches Rosa's face. This is where people break, where they see the reality and realize the job is too hard, the situation too hopeless. But Rosa walks forward slowly. She kneels between the wheelchairs, eye level with both boys. "Hello, Oliver. Hello, Ethan." Her voice is soft, gentle. "My name is Rosa. I'm going to be spending time with you." Neither boy responds. No eye contact, no recognition. Rosa doesn't seem bothered. She stays kneeling, just being present. After a long moment, she reaches out and touches Oliver's hand. Not grabbing, just resting her fingers against his palm. "You're so strong," she whispers. "Both of you, fighting every single day." Marcus clears his throat. "The morning nurse will be here in 30 minutes. She'll show you the medication schedule and feeding protocols. The physical therapist comes at 10. I understand. Follow their instructions, exactly. No deviations. Yes, sir. Marcus should leave, should go to his office, check email, prepare for conference calls. But he stands there watching Rosa kneel beside his sons, watching her hold Oliver's hand like it matters. Mr. Chen? Rosa looks up at him. Would it be acceptable for me to open the curtains? Let some light in? The monitors. I'll be careful of the equipment, but I think the boys might like to see outside. Marcus hesitates. No one has asked permission to change anything before. They just follow protocols. Fine. Rosa stands, walks to the windows. She pulls the blackout curtains back slowly. Sunlight floods the room, golden and warm. It catches dust particles in the air, makes everything glow, and something happens. Ethan's head turns, just slightly, just a few degrees toward the window. Marcus steps forward. Did he? He feels it, Rosa says quietly. The warmth. It's nothing, a reflex. Involuntary movement the doctors explained years ago. But Marcus can't look away from his son's face, from the way Ethan's eyes seem less distant in the light. The doorbell rings downstairs, the morning nurse arriving. I'll send her up, Marcus says. He leaves Rosa there, kneeling in the sunlight between his sons, and something in his chest aches. Marcus watches through the cameras that night. He tells himself it's standard procedure, making sure the new hire follows protocols. But really, he's watching because he can't stop thinking about that moment when Ethan turned toward the light. The footage shows Rosa working through the evening. The nurse left at 3. The therapist finished at noon. Rosa is alone with the boys. She moves differently than previous caregivers, slower, more intentional. She talks to Oliver and Ethan constantly, narrating what she's doing. Okay, Oliver, I'm going to adjust your chair, just getting you comfortable. Ethan, sweet boy, time for your exercises. I know they're uncomfortable. We'll go slow. She's following the protocols, exactly. Marcus watches her check medication lists, measure formulas precisely, execute range of motion exercises according to the therapist's instructions. But there's something else between the required tasks. Rosa does things that aren't on any chart. She hums while she works. Old songs, hymns, maybe. She places her hand on their foreheads gently, checking for fever, but also just touching them, like they're children, not patients. At 6 o'clock, Victoria enters the therapy room. Marcus leans toward the monitor. He's never watched Victoria interact with the boys through the cameras. Never needed to. She's his fiancée. He trusts her. But now, he watches. Victoria walks to Ethan's wheelchair. She's carrying a small bottle. Looks like medication. She sets it on the counter near the feeding supplies. How are they today? Victoria asks Rosa. Responsive to light, Ethan especially. Responsive? Victoria's voice is sharp. Rosa, they're not responsive. The doctors have been clear. I just meant, I know this is your first day, but false hope helps no one. These boys have severe brain damage. They're not going to improve. Rosa nods slowly. Yes, ma'am. Victoria picks up the bottle she brought. I assume you know how to administer supplements. Marcus has them on a specific vitamin regimen. The nurse didn't mention. She should have. I'll show you. Victoria measures out liquid from the bottle into 2 small cups. Oliver gets 5 milliliters twice daily. Ethan gets the same. Mix it with their formula. She hands the cups to Rosa. I'll tell the nurse to add it to the protocol sheet. What kind of vitamins? Immune support. Custom blend from their specialist. Victoria's smile is practiced. Perfect. Marcus spares no expense for their care. Rosa takes the cups, looks at them, looks at Victoria. Don't forget, Victoria says, twice daily, morning and evening. Very important. Then she leaves. Marcus watches Rosa stand there holding the cups. She looks at the bottle Victoria left on the counter, reaches for it, reads the label. The camera angle isn't quite right. Marcus can't see what's written there. Rosa sets the bottle down carefully. She pours the liquid into the boys' feeding bags like Victoria instructed. Marcus closes the laptop. He should feel good. Victoria is involved, helping manage the boys' care. That's what a good partner does. But something bothers him. Something about the way Victoria never touched the boys, never looked at them directly, just delivered her instructions and left. 3 days pass. Rosa arrives early each morning, leaves late each evening. Marcus watches through the cameras, the boys' feeding schedules, medication times, therapy sessions, everything by the book. But on the 4th morning, Marcus notices something in the footage from the night before. Rosa stayed late after the evening nurse left, after Victoria made her daily visit to deliver the vitamins. Rosa is alone with Oliver and Ethan. She's cleaning up, organizing supplies. Then she pauses, picks up the vitamin bottle Victoria brings, reads the label again. This time she opens her phone, takes a photo of the label. Marcus rewinds, watches again. Why would Rosa photograph vitamin supplements? He makes a note to ask her about it. But then Singapore calls, a zoning crisis, and the question slips away. That afternoon, Marcus works from home. He's in his office when he hears something strange, singing. He follows the sound to the therapy room. The door is cracked open. Inside, Rosa sits on the floor between the wheelchairs. She's singing in Spanish, her voice soft and clear. A lullaby, maybe. And Oliver is looking at her. Actually looking, his eyes focused on her face, tracking her movement when she sways slightly with the music. Marcus's breath catches. He pulls out his phone, opens the security app, rewinds to the beginning of Rosa's shift this morning. The footage shows her arriving at 7, but there's something in her bag when she enters the therapy room. Something small she removes when she thinks the cameras can't see. Marcus zooms in, enhances the image. A small camera, no bigger than a button. His blood runs cold. Another betrayal. Another person he trusted violating his privacy, probably planning to sell footage. But then he watches where she places it, not pointed at the boys, not capturing their medical conditions or his home's interior. The tiny camera is positioned on a shelf, angled toward the counter, toward the exact spot where Victoria sets that vitamin bottle every evening. Marcus sits back in his chair. Rosa isn't spying on his sons. She's spying on Victoria. Why? Marcus doesn't confront Rosa about the camera, not yet. Instead, he watches, waits, tries to understand what she suspects. That evening, Victoria arrives at 6 o'clock. Her routine is precise. Same time every day, same small bottle in her designer handbag, same practiced smile. Marcus positions himself in his study, where he can see both his security feed and the hallway leading to the therapy room. His heart pounds for reasons he doesn't want to name. Victoria enters. Rosa is feeding Ethan. "How were they today?" Victoria asks. "Good." Ethan held eye contact for almost 30 seconds. Victoria's expression hardens. "Rosa, we've discussed this. Don't confuse reflexes with progress." "Yes, ma'am." Victoria retrieves the bottle from her bag, measures the liquid into 2 cups, but this time Marcus notices something he missed before. The way her hands move efficiently, practiced. The way she doesn't measure carefully, just pours like she's done this 1,000 times. "Make sure they get the full dose," Victoria says. "It's crucial for their immune systems." After Victoria leaves, Marcus watches Rosa stand motionless, holding the cups. Then she does something that makes his stomach drop. She doesn't add the liquid to the feeding bags. She pours it into a small glass vial instead, seals it, hides it in her pocket. Then she goes to her canvas bag, retrieves the tiny camera, and she sits on the floor, pulls out her phone, and connects to the camera's feed. Marcus can't see what she's watching, but he sees her face, sees the way her expression shifts from concentration to horror, sees her hand fly to her mouth, sees tears start streaming down her cheeks. She watches for 5 minutes, 10. Then she stops the playback, closes her eyes, and her lips move in what looks like desperate prayer. Marcus's hands are shaking. He grabs his phone, pulls up Rosa's number, but before he can call, his office door opens. Victoria stands there, perfect as always. "Dinner reservations at 8. We should leave soon." Marcus looks at his fiancée, at the woman he proposed to, the woman who's been visiting his sons every single evening for 3 months. "I need to check something first," he says slowly. "In the therapy room." Something flickers across Victoria's face. "Now, Marcus, we'll be late." It won't take long. He walks past her, down the hallway. His footsteps sound too loud in the silence. Rosa is still in the therapy room. She looks up when he enters, and he sees it clearly now, the fear in her eyes. Not fear for herself, fear for Oliver and Ethan. "Mr. Chen, show me," Marcus says quietly. "Whatever you found, show me." Rosa's hands tremble as she pulls out her phone. "I'm so sorry. I know I broke your rules. The hidden camera, I'll leave tonight. I'll never tell anyone what I saw." "Rosa," his voice cracks. "Show me." She hands him the phone. The video is cued. He presses play. The angle shows the counter where Victoria sets the bottle. The timestamp is from 2 days ago. Victoria enters the frame, alone. She thinks Rosa is in the bathroom, thinks the boys are sleeping, thinks no one is watching. Victoria opens the bottle, but this time she does something different. She pulls a small dropper from her pocket, adds liquid from a different container, something clear, something she's careful not to spill. She mixes it thoroughly, then she seals the bottle and sets it down. The whole process takes 30 seconds. Marcus's vision blurs. "What is that? What is she adding?" "I took a sample to a pharmacy friend," Rosa whispers. "Had it tested without telling her where it came from." She pulls a paper from her bag with shaking hands. The vitamins are real, but there's something else. Antifreeze, small doses, not enough to kill quickly, just enough to make them sicker, weaker. The room tilts. Marcus grabs the counter to steady himself. "How long?" His voice doesn't sound like his own. "The camera has been recording for 3 days, but based on the boy's symptoms I've documented, the increased lethargy, the digestive issues the doctors couldn't explain, I think at least 2 months, maybe longer." 2 months, since right after he proposed. Marcus's legs give out. He sits on the floor, the phone still in his hand, watching the video loop. Victoria's careful movements, her practiced efficiency, the way she checks over her shoulder to make sure she's alone. "She wanted them dead." His voice breaks. "She wants them dead." Rosa kneels beside him. "Mr. Chen, we need to call the police, right now." But Marcus is somewhere else, remembering every conversation, every time Victoria suggested facilities, professional care, moving on, every time she touched his arm and said the boys would be better off somewhere else, every time she never said their names. The trust fund, $100 million each, untouchable while the boys are alive. But if they died, if both sons died before the wedding, Marcus would inherit everything. And as his wife, Victoria would have access to all of it. "She's been killing my sons." The words come out hollow. "For money." "We're calling 911. Rosa already has her phone out. Footsteps in the hallway. They both freeze. Victoria appears in the doorway. She sees Marcus on the floor, sees the phone in his hand, sees Rosa's expression, and Victoria smiles. Not the practiced, perfect smile. Something else. Something cold. "I knew it," she says quietly. I knew you were trouble the moment you walked in. Rosa moves to stand between Victoria and the wheelchairs. The police are coming. Are they? Victoria's hand moves to her purse. Marcus, darling, are you really going to believe the help over your fiancé? This woman planted evidence. She's clearly trying to extort you. Marcus stands slowly, every muscle in his body shaking. I watched the video. Doctored footage. She's been planning this. I watched you poison my sons. His voice explodes, raw and broken. I watched you try to murder my children for money. Victoria's mask drops completely. Her face hardens. Your children? Marcus, they're vegetables. They're drains on your resources, your time, your life. I was doing you a favor. Marcus lunges. Rosa grabs him, holds him back with surprising strength. Don't, Rosa says firmly. Don't give her anything. The police are coming. Sirens in the distance, growing louder. Victoria's eyes dart to the door. She calculates, decides, turns to run. But Marcus's driver, James, is standing in the hallway. He heard everything through the baby monitor Rosa had activated. He blocks her path, his face carved from stone. You're not going anywhere, Miss Sterling. The courtroom is packed. Marcus sits in the front row, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles are white. Rosa sits beside him. The prosecutor presents the evidence. Rosa's video. Lab tests confirming ethylene glycol in the vitamin bottles. Medical records showing the boys' declining health over the exact period Victoria had access. Financial records proving Victoria's motive. She had gambling debts exceeding $2 million. Victoria's lawyer tries, argues contamination, questions the hidden camera's legality, suggests Rosa planted everything. The jury deliberates for 90 minutes. Guilty, attempted murder, 2 counts, 25 years to life. Victoria doesn't look at Marcus as they lead her away, but she looks at the boys, at Oliver and Ethan in their wheelchairs in the back of the courtroom, and her face twists with rage. They should have died, she hisses. They're worthless. The bailiff removes her before she can finish. Marcus buries his face in his hands and weeps. 6 months after the trial, Marcus sits in the therapy room, but it doesn't look like a therapy room anymore. Rosa removed the blackout curtains permanently, replaced the sterile white walls with warm yellow paint, the color May chose for the nursery, brought in plants, soft rugs, toys the boys can actually reach. And the boys are different, not walking. The doctors were right about that. But alive, truly alive. Without the poison, their bodies began responding to Rosa's patient work. Oliver now grabs toys intentionally. Ethan makes sounds, not words yet, but communication. Both boys smile when Rosa enters the room. Marcus comes every morning now, not to watch through cameras, to be present. Today he sits on the floor between their wheelchairs. Rosa brought breakfast, simple things she makes with care. Good morning, Oliver. Good morning, Ethan. Marcus touches their hands. They curl their fingers around his. Daddy's here. Rosa brings him coffee. She doesn't work here anymore, not officially, but she comes anyway, every day, because that's who she is. They're getting stronger, she says softly, because of you. Marcus's voice breaks. You saved them. No, Mr. Chen, God put me here at the right time. The rest was just paying attention. Marcus looks at his sons, at Oliver's smile, at Ethan's bright eyes, at the way they respond to touch and voice and presence. They'll never walk. That truth remains. But they're not vegetables. They're not worthless. They're his sons, and they're alive. Rosa, Marcus says quietly, would you consider staying permanently, not as an employee, as family? She smiles. I'm already family, Mr. Chen. I was family the moment I walked through that door. Outside, the sun rises over May's garden. Light streams through the windows, golden and warm. And in the therapy room that's become a nursery again, A father holds his son's hands, not watching from a distance, not hiding behind screens, present. Finally, completely present, the way love is supposed to be. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.